Greetings and salutations. It's Bank Holiday Monday, and Tintin says hello, or as he usually said bonjour, and so does Snowy, or Miu Miu, as he's known in France. Yeah, love Tintin. Bank Holiday Monday, meaningless to me. Meaningless. I've worked all weekend because I had stuff to do. My big excitement is I reached 22,000 words in my new novel, which means it could go off to my literary agent and he can get the judgment. It's so scary. So scary. It's like waiting for your A-level results or your O-level results to plop through on the mat when you're a kid. You know him. You love him. He's a man. I can't say anymore. It's just a man. There he is. And look, he's looking magnificent.
Hello. I once remember someone that got that's producer
There's little Ken.
Yes, I remember. He's got another money-saving tip for you today. By the way,
we want young Ken. We want young Ken.
Men's radio. Good afternoon.
What am I doing here? It's the wrong thing. There we go. Right,
what are you doing?
I don't know. Anyway, we go from New Malden.
Yes.
Not New Malden, the centre of the media empire that is Neil Long. And what is this? I don't know what's that. I have no idea what the hell that is. And let's now go to somewhere, a secret location, or we just call it Loveland.
Hey.
In my dreams.
Greetings.
Loveland, baby.
Now you talk about A-level results. I once knew this guy. He got a D, a U, a D, and an E, and he was down the pub celebrating because it spelt dude. He was like, "Yeah."
What's he doing now? Probably running ICI. Now, what have we got here? I can't find the stream. Who is this, for goodness sake? You keep talking, Neil and Leslie. I've got to do this while I'm looking at it. I don't even know who this is. I can't find the StreamYard email for the interview. Well done, you.
He said, "Keep talking, Neil," but he's talking.
Oh, well, I think this is our guest. So, do you want to take me off? I did send it. Would you like me to send it again?
Oh,
can I speak, Leslie? Can I speak? There's also got somebody else here as well, which I wasn't expecting. No idea.
You see, he didn't listen, Neil. He didn't hear you. He wasn't listening.
Of course, I wasn't. What are you doing here, Mark Jarrett?
I was invited by the legend that is Neil Long.
Oh my goodness me!
Never liked Neil Long.
No, I think our guest has lost the email link. So I'm going to just. Do you want to take me off for a bit, Russ, and I'll resend it to him?
Dear God, if you as my mum used to say, if you want something doing, do it yourself. So, Mr. Jarrett, what's going on? I wasn't expecting to see you, but what a lovely, lovely surprise.
It's a pleasure to be here. Like you, this is a normal Monday for me. I've just been working all weekend. And here we are. My understanding was we're going to talk about compulsive gambling.
Oh, yes, that sounds good. We like that. I mean, you've got with Leslie, it's important.
Can I share with you my gambling journey?
Please.
So my mother was an alcoholic. So I spent my formative years acting in loco parentis to her, which was quite stressful. And my parents' marriage didn't last. She had her first drink when she was 27, and boy, did she make up for lost time. And alcoholism progressed, and it got so bad at one stage she was drinking perfume just for the alcohol.
Oh my God, yes. Leslie's face says it all. Jeez.
So that caused me a lot of pain. So to mask that pain, I started gambling on fruit machines. In the United States, they are known as slot machines. And in Australia, they are known as pokies. And when I was playing these machines, I would get into what they call a zone. And that the whole world wouldn't matter. I was just in my little bubble with the machines, and I've blown about £250,000 on those machines throughout my lifetime. But I've reframed it. I say, because if it wasn't for gambling, I wouldn't have met my gorgeous wife in the Dominican Republic in 1994. Where there was bugger all to do in the evenings apart from gamble, because gambling was legal there in 1994, but it wasn't in the United States. So a lot of Americans would go over to the DR to gamble in the casinos there. So I think it's the best £250,000 I've ever spent. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met my long-suffering wife.
Is that you reframing it so that
Yeah,
you
it's me
feel
reframing
better?
it.
I kind of know. I mean, I kind of
Yeah.
know you, so I'm going to go out
Yeah.
on the limb. I wouldn't do it for a guess I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's very easy. No, that's not the right word. It's comforting to look at something that was an absolute cluster duck,
Yes.
and then reframe it so that you
Yes.
don't feel quite so terrible about yourself.
Yes. Now, my gambling habit has the compulsive element has gone. So much so, I actually had a meeting in a casino 3 years ago, and I got bored with the. I did play the machines a little bit, but I got bored. So I'm not a compulsive gambler anymore. And a lady called Tracy Crouch has restored my faith in politicians, because she resigned out of principle due to the £100 limit on what are called fixed odd betting terminals, which you get in betting shops in the UK. And she proved to me that there are some politicians that have got principles. By the way, since she, I think a couple of months after she resigned, the maximum stake for these machines has been reduced from £100. It's illegal that they ever allowed that in the first place, to £2 a spin. So that's a good thing, because she was on the front. Sorry.
We've had a bit of confusion.
Yeah.
The chap said he could do it, but I think there's been a bit of a communication breakdown down the line, because I've just seen a text from him, and he says he misunderstood, and he's at the Notting Hill Carnival today. So I've texted him back and asked if we could do Wednesday instead, because it's a great subject, and I do want to talk about this, because I think it really does tie in to mental health, and like you say, Mark, the thing is though, and I'm so sorry to hear the backstory, but ultimately it doesn't really matter how you got there. The fact that you got out of it is the important thing.
Well,
because with any addictive thing, I believe all addictive behavior is really an attempt at numbing feelings that we don't want to feel. I had a friend who had some issues, and he did it with alcohol. But it creates a greater problem with alcohol. And in your case,
it creates dopamine. When you're playing these machines and you hit the jackpot, you get a dopamine rush.
This is really interesting. You're right. I was going to mention the dopamine, but it creates, in his case, it was alcohol. And in your case, as you kindly shared with us, £250,000. But the dopamine rush, the reward system, and I only learned this fairly recently, it works on the anticipation of it, not the thing itself. So when you think about it in a gambling point of view, it's a perfect storm. These machines are programmed.
It's very much like when I phone Leslie on almost a daily basis.
Yeah.
It is the anticipation that gives me the dopamine hit. Because the conversation, I'll be honest, it's okay. But the anticipation as I'm dialing her number.
You're such a tease.
So you're saying the anticipation is better than the real thing? Leslie, I can only apologise.
I'm not saying the real thing isn't good.
That was not the analogy I was shooting for.
Now, here's something. Let me ask.
Hang on, I haven't finished my analogy yet, man. So anyway, it's the dopamine. It's the anticipation of it. So
Absolutely.
these machines give. They're programmed to do what they call near misses.
Yes.
So it might be one out from the jackpot, but you win nothing. So you think, next time I'm going to win. Next time. So it amps up that amplification. It amps up that dopamine. Yeah. But then, of course, the dopamine system can't take it. So it shuts down a little bit. So you need more of the drug of choice, in this case, gambling, to get the same feeling. That's why if you take cocaine, you'll never beat the first high, because it down-regulates because it's too much.
Exactly.
And you've got less neuroreceptors to take the drug, and it keeps down-regulating, so you need more and more and more. In this case, more and more is gambling, and the comorbid effect, if you like, with my friend was alcohol. In this case, it was money. And that is the biochemistry, if you like, of the addiction.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, Mark Jarrett. Okay, and please everybody chime in. My father was a huge gambler. Huge. Absolutely massive. Didn't like casinos, no interested in that, no interest in cards. Horses. Horses. So much so, and I've said this many times, I'm very open about it. if our guests are open, it's only up to me to be open, that his bookmaker, we go to his bookmaker for Sunday lunch. That's how close they were. God knows what he lost on the horses. I mean, God only knows, with all the accounts. It was all done on the phone. I assumed everybody lived like that. That's the problem.
The thing is, though, it's
I assumed so my point is this.
Sorry,
that was Dad. So as a result, I don't gamble. And then I looked at myself with a sort of hard look, as Leslie knows I beat myself up a lot. And I thought every business decision I have ever made, including men's radio, is a huge gamble. I don't gamble in the traditional sense, but everything.
That's really interesting. But are you talking about mitigating risk or gambling?
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. I was going to say, this is actually with you, Russ, it's a kind of a risk-taking behavior, and you could take it or leave it. But when one has a dependence on something,
that's the word.
Then that's the difference. I know that my late father would have completely denied having an alcohol problem, but every night when he got home from work, the first thing he did was have a drink. He needed to do that. And I'm guessing for Mark with the gambling, it became something you needed to do. You needed the buzz, you needed whatever it gave you.
It gave you that dopamine rush. It gave you that anticipation, anticipation of the next big win, the next big win, the next big win.
It's the same with pornography.
Yeah,
that's just what I was about to say. That's why people start watching mild things and then go on to harder and harder and harder stuff, if you'll pardon my choice of words, because they need that anticipation, that more. Exactly. And it's because the brain receptors have shut down, so you need more because there's less receptors to receive. And
of course, in places like Amsterdam, Soho, Hamburg, etc., sex shops and gambling casinos are cheek by jowl. They complement.
And New Malden.
And New Malden,
really?
Of course.
Yeah.
There did used to be a knocking shop above the local chippy, so I heard in New Malden, but it was only a scurrilous rumour. Anyway.
Is that where you met Ken?
What?
Stop it. Stop it.
I can't. Now look here, Leslie.
No. Serious subject for people.
Yes, it is. But let me explain something to you, right?
Poor Ken.
We love Ken. Ken's marvellous. But he might have met him there. We don't know. Anyway, the thing is this. Because my Mondays start at 2 a.m. when they come to collect me. What are you saying? What are you tutting for now?
Choice. Your Monday start at 2 a.m. They come to collect you. Do they bring the straitjacket, sweetheart?
See, that's just rude. That's just rudeness. You wouldn't say that to Jeremy Paxman.
Oh, I so would.
I think that was very fair and justified.
Shut up. Shut up, Neil. Remember, I made you and I can break you.
Not to take the point too far the other way, because I enjoy a flutter. I might have a little go on the Grand National. I don't mind the odd scratch card. I used to love the fruit machines. They're not as much fun nowadays. But for me, it was just playing when I went to the coast. I might lose a fiver, something like that. That was all part of the holiday experience. And to say that was a gambling addiction would be like saying have a couple of beers with your mates on a Friday night as being an alcoholic. It's not.
Can I come back to Mark? I was just going to say, Mark, you talked about your mother's alcohol dependence. And do you think you began the gambling to kind of have something of your own to mask what was going on at home with your mum?
No, pure escapism. Because when I was gambling on the machines, her life and my life would just fade in the background. I wouldn't think about it. By the way, I recently heard about someone who was so addicted to the machines that when he won the jackpot, he got annoyed. Because when you play these machines and you do win the jackpot, it flashes lights and music and everything, and it breaks the gambling. I never got that bad.
And it also kind of proves the point of what I said about the dopamine not being the thing itself, being the anticipation.
Yes.
Because once the Del Boy became the millionaire, it wasn't fun anymore. There was no anticipation. Right?
Yes. So now that I operate 250 WhatsApp groups, when I got like 7 or 8 conversations going at once and it's ping, 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 That gives me a dopamine rush. But these WhatsApp groups are changing people's lives. I'm putting that addictive nature that I have to good use.
Can I ask a question? And this is serious because I don't want to upset Leslie, God forbid. Mark, I can't keep up. I'm part of your well-being mental health WhatsApp group, right? I can't keep up with it.
You're not alone.
I can't keep up with it at all. I don't have the time. I'll be honest. And then I look at it, I glance at it, and I think, no, I'm not following the thread here. How can you do 250 and I can't cope with that one?
Yeah.
You can be rude if you want.
The new messages float to the top. I just deal with them. I outsource some of the management to this, like the automotive group, for example, is headed by the guy that heads Europe's largest Ferrari car dealership. He knows much more about the automotive industry.
Is that Maranello?
Than me.
Is that Maranello?
No.
Okay.
And so often the groups kind of run by themselves. I make sure that the tribe are good people. So no one, they tend to be autonomously run. And you're invited to the Powerful Women group. Not you, Neil.
Me?
Yes, of course.
You
are the only lady in the room.
Thank you. It may be the only place where I am a powerful woman.
That's not true.
Not at all.
Oh, I don't know.
Why do you say that? As we're all bearing our souls today on Bank Holiday Monday, why do you say that?
I was actually being sarcastic, just because I tend to take a back seat here because I'm quite good at listening.
Yeah, it makes for good radio.
Oh, shush. Anyway, it's men's radio station. It's not women's.
Excuse me. Hang on a minute.
I know 50% of the audience. I'm not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Which was a marvelous byproduct.
Russ Kane, I love you.
Well, you're not wrong.
So I've texted the guy that was going to be on today because I think it's an important subject, and I'll get him booked in as soon as I can because he actually runs something called Red Card Gambling, and it's all about the prevention of this because the effect of gambling, it can lead to depression. It can lead to suicide. It can lead to massive losses, losing your house, losing your family. And we're not talking about a flutter down the pub any more than we're talking about a couple of points for an alcoholic. We're talking full on gambling. So we will get him on because he runs a really good service trying to prevent this and stop it before it happens.
Can we put a date in the diary to do a fundraising party?
Yeah.
Because he's got a GoFundMe page, and I will promote the shit out of it.
Well, I'll leave you two to sort that out because it's a sort of byproduct of what they.
Hey, Russ, Leslie, you want to come to a party?
No.
Yes, we can, Mark.
I've got enough Tupperware to last a lifetime, and I don't need anything more from Ann Summers, so I'm not coming. As things get worse and worse, I mean, seriously, on talk radio.
In this country, you mean generally?
Yeah, well, I mean, in life, but let's just deal with the cost of living.
Yeah.
And I was going through, because all the papers today have got extraordinary, which you won't have seen, but I was looking at it at 2:30 this morning, is they do comparison of what you're paying now, for example, your hairdryer or your fridge or your this or your TV, and what you're going to be paying from October. And it's bloody
really?
Yeah, it's really scary stuff. As things get worse and worse, I do all the lotteries, every single lottery that comes up. I do it all online. It hasn't changed my life, but it seems to be the only way that you're going to get the possibility of a big hit for a few quid. So it's a kind of, for me, it's worth it. I don't get a thrill out of it. I treat it as a business. But as things get worse and worse, which they will, and I am dreading this winter, an idiot who just says, well, put on an extra sweater. I mean, you really are stupid, right? You really are stupid. There's no nobility in being freezing cold and poor. It's just complete bullshit. I think people would turn to gambling because why? Because they like me. They think, well, that is the only possibility I've got of getting away. I'm not saying, Leslie, I'm agreeing with you in my heart. I'm shaking my head.
I know that, but your chances of winning big are 14 million to 1 against you.
Which is that the same chances if you went to a bookmaker's and got something which would give you 14 million to 1, it would be something like Elvis Presley riding on a UFO, landing on the head of the Loch Ness Monster.
Well, get this. My wife and I actually got all 6 numbers right in the German lottery 20 years ago.
What?
Were they chosen or lucky dip?
She was in charge, and the Germans have got something called System Lotto. So normally it's 6 out of 49, but you can actually take 10 or more out of 49. Obviously, that increases your chances of winning quite dramatically, but the premium for playing the game increases dramatically. And there's 2 versions, the rich man's version and the poor man's version. You need a degree in further mathematics to understand this. But long story short, she paid the poor man's version, and we won a nice chunk of money, but it wasn't life-changing. Okay. And we went to the German lottery to collect the money, and there was a room with a bottle of champagne where the real winners thing. It was such a tease. Had she have played the full system, we would have become multi-millionaires, but the cost of that ticket would have been over 1,000 Deutschmarks, which would have caused a little bit of friction.
What's that in pounds?
That would have been about 300 quid.
Right.
Wow. Oh no, that's a serious.
Yeah.
That's a serious investment.
Yeah.
I do like fiver a
Yeah.
time, maybe.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Russ, you've got a much better chance of winning if you jump on the Jubilee line. That's all I'm saying. Sorry, everyone. Private joke. Or not that private.
This is lovely. This is coming in from New York State in the northeast of the United States, from Azadon Brown. Lovely Demisa always adds something of substance and is a wonderful contribution to men's radio. Aza, A, you're right. B, thank you. And C, that's why she's here.
Absolutely.
What people don't know is that Leslie, apart from having been in the education profession for many, many years at Capital Radio, where we met in 1984, Jesus, she was in charge of all the, I'm going to call them socially facing things. So not music, not the pop music, and not Bros and all the rest of that, stuff, good stuff at the time, but all of the social conscience, which, as Neil will recall, Capital had then. We'll leave it at then. We'll leave it at then and just move on. Times change. Do you see what I'm saying about people getting desperate, therefore gambling will become more attractive?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yes, I do. But remember, the house always wins.
The lure of quick money to pay the heating bill.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What are people actually... we talk about this and we dance around it, and everyone, the BBC and everyone, ooh, it's all going to be... What are we actually going to do? This is my fear. Can I run something by the three of you? I'm going to start with Leslie, go to Mark, and then Neil. All right? I'm sounding vaguely professional. Jesus. My fear is this, that this winter, forget winter of discontent, we all remember the poll tax riots. There was a justifiable thing, and then rent a mob who will come when the wind changes direction. They turn up and everything becomes very violent. My absolute fear for this year is that law-abiding, tax-paying people who just want to watch the repair shop on TV and dunk a digestive into a cup of tea and all that are going to get so pushed that they will protest, and that will then be leapt on by the rent-a-mob gang. It'll be Extinction Rebellion. It'll be the morons doing the things in the petrol stations. It'll be the idiots saying that milk is racist. I mean, every nutbag on the world. And I think it's going to get horribly violent, and that is scary. Leslie.
Yes, it is.
I think the rent-a-mob bit might be quite right, but it's very interesting. I was having a discussion, I'm just going to name drop, with Lord Cashman, Michael Cashman. There was an online chat with him on Instagram the other day about just this. And I said, one of the things that occurs to me is the people who are suffering the most have been suffering for so long that they no longer have the impetus, the ability to speak for themselves. They are so browbeaten and weighed down with it that they think they're worthless. And I don't think I'm not going to call it apathy. They're not apathetic, but I think they're so downtrodden that they haven't got the energy to protest. And I think it's going to be, as you say, Russ, the ones that love a protest coming out of the woodwork, those rent-a-crowd groups who are going to say they're representing the downtrodden, but actually they're not. And you tell somebody that they're crap or they're lousy often enough and they'll believe it. You tell a child they're no good, they'll believe it. And I think this is what's happened to the people who are on the poverty line, living just below the poverty line, just existing, looking at where they'll get the next meal, whatever it is. Interesting program. I don't know if it was news or something I caught last night, maybe, I don't know, my days blur, about an area where they are opening social hubs over the winter period so that people can go, no questions asked. You just turn up every day, you can sit there. There will be warm places. They may or may not have food, but there's somewhere you can go just to be and keep warm. And
how fantastic is that? What a beautiful idea.
Brilliant idea. I mean,
beautiful idea. It's just a warm room. Thank God for that.
To me, open, except they shut loads of libraries, didn't they, when there were the cutbacks? But funnily enough, I said to my niece and nephew yesterday when I was whinging about them and their spending money, but they're entitled to. And I said, oh, your poor old auntie living on a pension. I'll have to spend my winter in the library because I can't afford to heat the house. And I thank God I was in a position where I was joking with them to an extent. Who knows whether I'll be able to, but it is interesting. I just think we have to remember that very few people are speaking on behalf of those who are impoverished. The Labour government certainly aren't speaking on behalf of the poor right now. That they should be. They're not speaking.
They're too busy infighting. What is this? The heat tin.
This is from a lady that I know in the Midlands. This is connected with Liz, who presented on the show one day, and it's her friends in the Midlands. And basically, I just keep it by the telephone table, and people can put money in it when they come round. And it's called a heat tin, and it's just basically a simple thing to collect money for people that may be in that situation in the winter. So heating or eating is not a choice. Every penny raised goes to good local and national and international charities to help fight food and fuel poverty in your area. So maybe it's just little initiatives. Lots of little things is as good as one big thing. Perhaps.
Mark, Leslie made some brilliant points there. Mark, you see, the trouble is, if you've got nothing to lose, what the hell does it matter what you do? If you've got nothing to lose, no further down to go, no way out, you're going to do stuff which in normal times you wouldn't. That's the scary thing for me. Because I understand it.
Yeah. Are you going around the table, aren't you? You go, Mark, and I'll say what I think.
Yeah, so going back to these betting shops, they tend to proliferate in very deprived areas. But the law doesn't allow more than 4 of these machines in each betting shop. So sometimes you see 2 William Hills in the same street. And, one man takes his life in the UK every 2 hours because us men are hardwired. Part of the reason is because of money. And I'm afraid it's just going to get worse and worse. It's tragic. By the way, Leslie, did you go to King's College?
I did postgrad at King's.
Yes, I just found you on LinkedIn, so I'm going to send you an invite. Yeah.
Thank you.
Get ready to meet some amazing people.
Talking of amazing people, ladies and gentlemen, Neil Long.
It is ultimately a choice, and it's very hard to see when you're on your uppers or maybe been down for so long. And I think the science of it is that if people are in stress or fight or flight, then the front part of the brain, the evolved bit, shuts down and people make emotional and therefore ill thought out decisions. We don't make good decisions when we're stressed. So I think organisations like what we're doing now should promote positive steps you could do, calming exercises, talking about promoting initiatives like that, maybe even encouraging people to start their own, because the more people that just on a grassroots level do something, the better it's going to get. We could sit here all day and talk about how awful it's going to be, and maybe it is, but we can't counter it by doing that. So I think, use every platform.
Standing around wringing your hands, the typical British way of, was it? Well,
exactly.
Tutting.
Well, I think
this is not going to help.
Every platform,
This
including
is not
this
going to
fine
help.
platform.
No, this is from your producer. I love that. Your producer, my producer's a mini schnauzer just over there having a snooze. Police forces across the UK are reportedly, well, Ken, be careful, preparing for a wave of civil unrest sparked by the cost of living crisis. In history, when prices have risen, there has been civil unrest. Well, that's if they can find time to come off a diversity course or learning to dance the Macarena. So that doesn't help, does it?
So I say use all the platforms, including this fine platform, to promote the positive ideas, even encourage people to maybe start their own initiative, which is quite empowering if you do.
This is on the scale of COVID.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Absolutely. And how did we get here, Leslie? Leslie, how did we get to this? How did we just? It did. There's an interesting thing from Martin Lewis, the economist, and he got very emotional the other day. I was told I don't watch daytime TV, and he got very emotional. He said, "I have been standing on the beach screaming, 'Shark, shark, shark,' and everyone has ignored me, and now it's too late." And he's right.
Is he an economist?
Yes.
I thought he was a kind of money expert.
Well, he's we'll call him a money expert then. I was using economist just to give him an umbrella.
Yeah, the money saving expert, Martin Lewis, yeah.
I think we've just got here through the fact that people no longer think they can make a difference. I mean, it's what you said, Russ, about standing there wringing their hands. Oh dear, oh dear. You just have to look at the percentage of people that go out to vote in an election, whether it's a local election or it's a general election. The figures, the numbers have gone down year on year on year. The governments insist that if you're going to general elections locally, they're always on a Thursday. Why not at a weekend? I know that they go from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. and all that kind of thing. It's social control. We are controlled socially so strictly, although people don't realize it, that actually you just think, well, I can't make.
Well, we don't have a government, do we?
Well, there is that now, but even when we did, Mark, well, we had. Shall I get political? A lot of lying bastards who wouldn't know the truth if it slapped them around the face with a wet fish. I
had a great joke just before we got down to just two. Choosing the next Tory leader is like choosing which Portaloo to use at Glastonbury.
Absolutely.
The trouble is, you see, the trouble is that I'm almost with the George Carlin, probably the greatest comedian and prophet of all time. George Carlin passed away, and he does this extraordinary thing about he doesn't vote, and the reason he doesn't vote, he says, then you can't blame me because it's hello, I'm in a meeting, can't talk. It's like, and it wasn't me for once. And he said, everyone screams and yells and rants and raves. He says, I won't vote because when everything goes wrong, I say, don't blame me because I didn't vote. It is scary.
It's sad to live in an era where the Prime Minister from 12 years ago, Gordon Brown, is giving more feedback to what should be done than our current politicians. It's tragic.
Well, the man who gave away all the country's reserves, that Gordon Brown.
No, point taken.
The man who became Prime Minister over an Italian dinner.
By the
That
way,
Gordon Brown.
I don't allow politics and religion in my WhatsApp group. So
No, quite right. Jeez,
yeah,
what a complete what an utter nightmare. That I've got no time for Gordon Brown.
Would it be a good time for our money saving tip of the day?
Yes, it would.
From
Neil
our producer,
Longy Long.
Yes, I've got one for you.
Oh yeah.
You can claim back all your TV license money that you've ever paid ever, and get it all back in one lump sum.
How so?
I'm not sure, but I'm about to do it. You write a letter somewhere, and
hang on, you can't leave us hanging like that, Jarrett.
That is the
I'll keep you in the
That is
loop.
the lamest thing I think we've ever had on any show. You can do. Hey, everybody, you can get to Mars and not even use a rocket ship. How? Dunno, but I'm going to write a letter and find out.
So, are we ready for the money saving tips of the day?
Yeah.
Look at this from your wonderful producer.
I'll
Could
tell you what,
read
I'll just
this,
read
Neil?
out his comment first. We got to this. In fact, I'll bring him on. He can tell you himself. You can take that one off the screen if you like, and I shall.
Oh no, I don't want to do that.
All right, I'll do it then. We got to this point due to government's indecision over energy security, i.e., no decisions for reliable electricity generation for the future. Instead, they put their faith in unproven technology, which has not been invented.
Can I say something? And I'm going to say this, and then I want the money saving tip. Every Monday, I do get picked up, and the car company that picks me up very kindly and takes me to Talk TV, they have to use electric vehicles. That's the deal. They're hopeless. They're absolutely hopeless. I'm not saying they're not nice and comfortable and they look smart. They've got 1,000,001 whizzy gadgets. If it's you and me, Leslie, like, we potter from where you live into town and we potter back, let's just say, and you can plug it in at home at your garage, it's okay. If you've actually got journeys, absolutely useless. And the guy said the other day, don't forget these are professional drivers, the other day, it took him 2.5 hours out of his working day because the electric pumps, call it like that, the recharging weren't working. Then you get there and somebody's already on it. That's an hour. It takes you at least an hour to do. He lost 2.5 hours of a working day. Then he showed me something, and I go on and on about this, and nobody will listen. They say it'll do X 100 miles, and it all sounds great. And he says, yeah, if you don't switch anything on. He said, watch. So we're driving along, and he says, look at the range. So I look at the range, and we're only going from where I live to London Bridge Station, effectively, where the News Corp is. And it says 155 miles, right? It says 155 miles. He says, now watch. And he put on the heater. It instantly went to 80 miles. Instantly. It's a nonsense. And where's all the electricity going to come from? What are they going to have to do? They're going to have to build more nuclear power stations or reopen the coal mines. Well, they can't reopen the coal mines because they'll be flooded. It's a whole technical thing. It's so expensive. Anyway, there we go.
Sorry to be all doomy and gloomy, but have you heard of the Carrington event? It took place in 1859. It was a massive solar storm. There is going to be another one. And when it happens, it will knock out all the electricity grid on this planet. And we're toast. Anyway, have a lovely Monday, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Electromagnetic pulse, it's called.
Well,
I'm so on my way on the Jubilee line. If that's the case, I'm not hanging about.
Did you know that London Underground has got its own power network? It's not actually part of the grid. It's
yes, and I'll tell you something else. That the wonderful Suchet family, as in David Suchet and John Suchet and my pal Peter Suchet, their parents, Joan and Jack, lived above Baker Street's tube station.
Oh,
in a place called Chiltern Court. They're both passed now a long time ago, but there's a block of flats, which unless you know it, you wouldn't know it's there.
Yes.
Very nice sort of Art Deco-y type 30s place called Chiltern Court.
Yes.
Electricity was free because it was originally built for sort of railway workers, etc., comes off the tube lines. The electricity was completely free. Isn't that fantastic?
Wow.
That was fun. Anyway, right. Tip, please.
Introducing Ken Evans with today's selection of money-saving tips on Men's Radio.
Hello, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a very simple tip today. Your average charger from, phone chargers, they'll cost you at the moment about £60 a year to just leave plugged in. From April, it's going to be, 100 to 120. So just unplug them. We don't need them. Just plug them in when you need them. And that's the simplest tip you can do. Just that it doesn't sound a lot, but now with the prices going up, it all mounts up, doesn't it?
Ken, can you help me with this? My chum, Petri Hoskin, who I was with this morning, on air, by the way, before you get excited, and I was going through all these things, and I talked about you. And I said that this chap is very, very clever. And he said the first thing to do, unplug your microwave, which I took your advice because you said just having the clock on is like £100 a year. For what? You got a watch? What the hell? So I've unplugged it. I have everything unplugged if I'm not using it. And then we were talking about, charging phones or something. And Petri was insisting it costs like nothing. And I go, no, look at so they were diametrically opposite. She was quoting from, what's it called? User. There was some well-known site which talks about the prices of power, utilities. I forgot what it's called. And then there's the newspapers. Who's right, Ken?
The problem is, I usually look at about 6 or 7 different places. I look at like Money Saving Expert and all of those ones, and British Gas and OVO and a lot of the others. So that's where I got my short list of tips from. What the truth is, without buying a meter, I don't know. But logically speaking, whatever you've got plugged in is going to be drawing power. And it's that simple. Just by you turning on your TV and it instantly comes on. It's because it's in standby mode and it uses power. If your children have got PlayStations, they'll draw quite a bit of power when they're on, about 400 watts. And when they're turned off, again, it'll cost X amount over the year because it's in standby mode.
Yes,
we're currently paying £315 a month for our power and gas, which is quite a lot. What's that going to go up to?
It's going to go up by 80%.
80%.
80%. It's disgusting. Do they blame COVID? Do they blame Putin? Or do they blame sheer greed and incompetence? Which is it?
It's just indecision. They didn't want to make any decisions that might upset quite a small minority of people screaming, we've got to save the planet, which we have. And
so is it Thatcher's fault for privatising everything? Because the French bills have gone up by 6%.
The French government have re-privatised EDF now.
Have they?
In the last few months. So no, it isn't. It was a bad decision because we should never have privatised our energy whatsoever or our water.
But water isn't privatised, is it?
Yeah. It is.
Is it?
Of course it is. Thames Water. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Severn Water Company. They make a fortune.
They're all sold off to European companies.
And my view has been, I know this sounds slightly xenophobic, but I really don't care, is we might as well be like in the Congo or Belgium, or it really doesn't matter, Antarctica, because if you're sold to a foreign company, we're just a market. We're just numbers. They don't care. Why would they care?
I want to tell Ken that I have completely unplugged my kettle. As of listening to the other day, unplugged the kettle. The switches are all off in the kitchen.
As I said, the best one, I think, is because the average household apparently has got 68 light bulbs because they've got all these little light bulbs. Back in the day, your parents had, in your living room, you had one light bulb, it was 60 watts, and that lit the room. Now, people have got all these little lighters and everything. And even if they're only drawing 5 watts of power, they're still using 60 watts or more of energy. And I did a little test. And I literally unplugged, I just left one light bulb on in each room. I wanted to see if it would make a difference to my energy bill. I'm hardly ever there. But I knew and I unplug everything. My standing charge was actually more for 3 months than the energy drained from all my bits. The only thing I had on was my fridge. Everything else I unplugged. I was of the opinion that if my TV dies because it's been unplugged, so be it. It's a piece of modern technology that's complete junk as far as I'm concerned. It's a wonderful thing, ridiculous size, but at the end of the day, I was looking at the future. So,
Ken, can I ask you, is it enough to flick the switch off on the plug, or do I have to? Oh, that's insufficient.
Should be, yeah. I mean,
Thank you.
I can only go by, whenever I quote something, I always like to cover myself because there's always somebody that will go, oh, you've got that wrong. So I don't tend to argue with Centrica, i.e. British Gas, because they're in the business of selling us energy, but equally, by law, they've got to help us save energy.
We're all old enough to remember the power cuts in the 1970s, and that was inconvenient. But back then, our boilers didn't need electricity necessarily, and the telephone would work autonomously. Now, if there were power cuts, we would be really screwed.
Well, because back then we weren't all connected on the internet
as
well. Didn't have. I mean, look at this. We do Men's radio station, and it all relies totally end to end on technology.
It does.
For argument's
no
sake,
power, everything goes. There's nothing I can do. Nothing. Any.
If they do, if as the scaremongers are saying, they could be rolling blackouts. It could be a case of people clubbing together and going to each other's houses so that they've got a bit of energy. So for this show, say if there was rolling blackouts within London, it'd be a case of, right, I'm going to go and pick up Russ. And that's not, it's a possibility. But
it's all marvellous, but then you look at the side effects is petrol is like a gazillion pounds a gallon or whatever it is.
And what does it need to get petrol out of the pump? Electricity.
Yep. Well, here's an interesting fact about electric cars. From October, I can't give you all the figures, but most electric cars may cost more than petrol or diesel cars to run.
Yes, those costs are rocketing. Now this was so obvious. I mean, you
it's all short-term.
You knew. Leslie has put her finger on it. It's about control. You knew the moment you could see everyone being corralled towards us, kettled as I call it, with police riots. You're being kettled towards this thing. Right, we've got everybody on an electric car. Bang, let's shove the car. So I always talk to every single driver who picks me up because it's how you know. The three of us could discuss it, the four of us, and Neil. But when you're talking to the person at the coalface, i.e. the professional driver, well, now they reckon from October it would cost, this is the Volkswagen ID3, which is what Volkswagen have basically bet their entire future on, their electric car. Okay, they spent billions developing it. It's okay. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Not very comfortable. It will cost at least 40 quid to fill up. At least 40 quid minimum in London. At least 40 quid.
Wow.
Not the 6 quid they gave us with the fairy tale and have a free unicorn.
For the electric. 40
electric.
To charge
I'm going to let Neil get back now.
Yes. This is what people don't see is coming.
I had an interesting stat yesterday. If petrol prices were to increase by the same as the energy prices, it would be £500 to fill your average car.
Wow.
Yeah. And what does that mean? Wow. As Leslie said, it means you don't travel. It means you stay at home. What happens if you stay at home? You're very malleable. You're not going anywhere. You're not meeting other people. You're not having conversations. Sorry, Neil.
No, not at all. I just put my hand up. Can I tell you in a minute about our guest for Wednesday?
Do it now. Go ahead.
Helen Snape. She's been on before, and we're giving her a little bit of promotion because I love her work. She is a reformed people pleaser, and I can read you the blurb which she sent me, and this is really, really good stuff. So if you think you say yes too much, then this will be really, really handy for you. And she's literally made a whole body of work out of all of this, and we're going to be having a chat with her about it on the show. And let me just find it. Here we are. Now, this is what she says. Do you feel at ease, or do you want to feel at ease speaking up for yourself, create balanced relationships, and make decisions with confidence? And actually, this, you might think, what's that got to do with the topic today? But actually, maybe it is more than we would care to admit, because if we're told prices go up, oh yeah, okay, you know what I mean? And we don't have any, we got choice of two responses, kind of, oh yeah, okay, like the browbeaten response, like Leslie says, or possible, no, it's not okay, and protesting and trouble. But what if there's a third way? And what if we could make more decisions with confidence, including decisions about our finances? What if there is a different way of thinking about these things that we haven't thought of yet that could be helpful? But if you're confused, you've tried being assertive communication and it didn't work, you've worked on having a tough skin and still feel deeply affected by others' comments, you don't understand why you don't get back what you give in your relationships, and now you start even doubting your abilities, and deep down you know you're close. But let me tell you something, it's normal to start doubting yourself when you have big dreams and hopes for your relationships. So the very fact that we doubt ourselves does mean that deep down there are big dreams, and maybe it's just a way of thinking about it differently so we can bring these, manifest these dreams. This lady is an expert in helping good girls and guys grow their guilt-free no. And there's a live training that she's going to be doing, which we're promoting. And this is what is going to be covered on the training. We're going to talk about it on Wednesday. You learn how you've given your power away and how to find the source of it, what needs to happen so you can speak up for yourself with ease, and how to speak up without ruining your relationships. And I think we all have that.
Good luck with that. Good luck with the last one. Good luck with the last one. So why don't you walk through this minefield? What's the worst that's going to happen? Nothing. Be a bit
but I think, she really has devoted her whole life to this. After coming out, she'll tell you on Wednesday. It's not a secret. It's all on her website. So I'm not speaking out of turn. After coming out of a very less than ideal relationship, and then seeing the therapist, turning the healing corner, as we like to call it, and now being able to put a body of work out there to help other people. But I think this affects all of us to some degree, doesn't it? So I can't wait to talk to her on Wednesday.
I found the perfect T-shirt yesterday. I saw it.
Oh,
somebody posted a picture. It said, "Why fall in love when you can fall asleep?" I thought it was great. I can't adult to say. I can't adult anyway.
And I will try and get in touch with Tony from the Red Card Gambling.
Yeah. And yes, please do
try and get him on Wednesday. Sorry about the confusion.
Neil, forget it. Don't worry. Mark's been great. This is coming in from Northeast United States, and we're going back to voting. Leslie,
active voting will occur when we have something to believe in, says Asa Don Brown.
Yes.
As a dual citizen of Canada and the States, I've voted in both countries, but it's difficult for many to feel an urge to vote when the political environment is a cesspool of corruption.
Let me just throw this in.
I thought Canada was really forward thinking.
You must be joking. Christ almighty, you must be under Trudeau. What?
Yeah.
Let me just say something to you. I'm going to throw this in the last 7 minutes, right? And anybody who is sentient knows they want to get rid of cash. You know that the banks are all closing, all the branches are closing. They don't want an interface between you, the punter, and Maureen behind the till, or Fred behind the till. They couldn't give a monkeys. They want it all online. It saves them a lot of money, and it's completely inconvenient for us, right?
Yeah. Sweden are taking the lead there. It's become a cashless society.
So it's cashless, right? Coming back to what you said about Canada being great, and Asa, I know when they did the truckers protest, right? When they did the truckers, Justin Trudeau, under the guise of being so liberal and wonderful, did the most fascist thing I can think of in modern times outside of South America. He froze the bank accounts. Now, because everything is digital, i.e. you haven't got cash in your pocket, he froze the bank accounts of the people who were protesting. Not only that, when people tried to set up the GoFundMe accounts to support the truckers who had a right, no, those were frozen or they were stopped. This is all absolute control. So we go into a cashless society. They know for what reason. I mean, God, I have the most boring life. You know, you want to go and I bought a coffee, knock yourself out. Fantastic. So they'll know where you've been, how much you spent, when you spent it, how you spent it, what you spent it on, the time you were there, all of this nonsense. I don't know what they're supposed to be doing with this. And of course, it'll stop the black economy. And they're going to have to find another term for that. No doubt somebody will be jumping up and down complaining. But you know what I mean? The cashless, you know, it's going to cost you £1,000, give me 800, we'll forget the VAT, and you give them 800 quid cash and they never declare it. All this kind of business. That's what they want. It's all about control. I'm sorry, I never used to think like this. I never did. But now, wow.
In the few minutes we've got left, Russ, I'd like to ask you, have you met Nina? I know that you have.
Yes,
Neil.
yes.
You
Yes,
have.
we did.
Yes, she was on the
came
show the other day.
She was staggering.
Absolutely
In fact,
incredible
I
human being.
instantly asked her to join our advisory board of men's radio and women's radio. And she accepted.
Amazing.
She's in the most extraordinary. We're going to get her back. Neil and I were struggling. We've been in this game
She
a long time.
She had Scotland Yard in tears the other week with her story. And now she's teaching fighters, professional fighters, about mindset. I mean, wow. Pressure does create diamonds.
It's I don't know how she survived. Leslie, I'll talk to you, but I don't know if you saw it. It was the most one of the most extraordinary interviews.
And also, interestingly, what we've been talking about today, because I bought her book, and she talks about what will be known in some circles as an abundance mindset, which is all about how you think and how you feel. And that is regardless of any outer conditions. You could even say that mindset creates the outer conditions for you, despite what's going on. And that's pretty powerful. So maybe we should introduce some of those concepts on the show, if that would be helpful. If people.
By the way, I totally get why you didn't want to take it forward the first time round, because honour killings is a very, very touchy, dangerous subject that people want to suppress for obvious reasons.
Did you see? And I couldn't make this up. And this is unbelievable. Rotherham. Now, you know Rotherham. They covered up all of the sexual abuse there. 1,400 young girls, at least, those are the ones they know about. 1,400 young girls sexually abused and God knows what by these grooming gangs. All of which, I'm sorry, it's just a fact, come from one section of society. Rotherham has just been given a huge government award as being the most child-friendly city in the UK.
Say that again?
Yeah, you heard
Rotherham has been
you heard me right. You heard me right.
Isn't that a bit like King Herod being given the award for best babysitter of the year?
No. I'd say, Rose West, Mother of the Year. I mean, what the hell? Who thinks of this crap?
Isn't it one City of the Year?
Most child-friendly. Most child-friendly. You couldn't make it up.
I've actually got a WhatsApp group about Rotherham, because I believe in trying to help these impoverished cities in the north if we can. Rotherham needs all the help it can get.
We'll start with some arrests. How about that?
Start with
some arrests.
Start
with some arrests and maybe and check everybody's identity. Sorry, I'm sorry, but what's
By
going
the way,
on?
I've got 6 months after the referendum, I wanted to get out of my little southern metropolitan elite bubble and visit people in the real world. So I asked my wife if she would be interested in having a weekend in Scunthorpe and Grimsby. She wasn't very interested.
You're still married?
So I got in the car. Went up there by myself. And I went into a pub for 7 hours and I met about 30 people. And I asked them all how they voted. Guess how many Remainers I met?
70.
0, not one. But it was a protest vote, wasn't it?
It was,
yeah, that's another subject that's
it's another subject we could have a blazing row about.
Yeah.
God only knows. Leslie Demeter, as ever, words of wisdom with elegance and grace. Mark Jarrett, as ever, impassioned. Neil, well, just as ever, really. Bless you. We'll be back on when. Have a lovely bank holiday Monday. No, Neil, you've been lovely. You're always great. And
Too
thank
late.
you to Ken.
Too
Shut
late. Patronising
up.
is not going to help now.
Just shut up. Just shut up. We'll be back on Wednesday with Neil's special guest. We look forward to it.
People pleasing.
Enjoy the rest of your holiday and good luck going back to work tomorrow. Bye,
Good
everybody.
afternoon.
Bye, everyone. Bye.